Namaskar everyone. Today is the second day of our talks on a deeper understanding of the Bhagavad Gita in the light of Sri-Aurobindo. I think in the entire Gita, of all the chapters, chapter 16 seems to be the most powerful one in the sense that Sri Krishna is very direct in his advice to our common human beings. Yesterday, we had seen his first initial advice to Arjuna, but now he comes out very bold and very strong. Chapter 16, verse number 21. Threefold are the doors of hell, destructive of the soul: desire, wrath, and greed. Therefore, let man renounce these three. Before that, he had given us an analysis telling us there are two creations of beings in this material world, the Daivik and the Asuric. The Daivik had been described at length. Hear from me, O Partha, the Asuric. Pride, arrogance, excessive self-esteem, wrath, harshness, ignorance, these, O Partha, are the wealth of the man born into the Asuric nature. The world is without God, they say. Not true, not founded in truth, brought about by a mutual union with desire for its sole cause, a world of chance. Resorting to insatiable desire, arrogant, full of self-esteem and the drunkenness of their pride, these misguided souls delude themselves, persist in false and obstinate aims, and pursue the fixed, impure resolution of their longings. They imagine that desire and enjoyment are all the aim of life, and they are the prey of a devouring, a measurelessly unceasing care and thought and endeavor and anxiety till the moment of their death. Bound by 100 bonds, devoured by wrath and lust, unweariedly occupied in amassing unjust gains, which may serve their enjoyment and the satisfaction of their craving, always they think, today I have gained this object of desire, tomorrow I shall have that other. Today I have so much wealth, more I will get tomorrow. I have killed this way my enemy, the rest too I will kill. I am a lord and king of men. I am perfect, accomplished, strong, happy, fortunate, a privileged enjoyer of the world. I am wealthy, I am of high birth. Who is there like unto me? I will sacrifice, I will give, I will enjoy. Thus occupied by many egoistic ideas, deluded, addicted to the gratification of desire, doing works but doing them wrongly, acting mightily but for themselves, for desire, for enjoyment, not for God in themselves and God in man. They fall into the unclean hell of their own evil. These proud haters of good and of God, evil, cruel, vilest among men in the world, I cast down continually into more and more Asuric births. Cast into Asuric wombs, deluded birth after birth, they find me, not as they do not seek me, and sink down into the lowest status of soul nature. You see, these have been very strong definition and warning to all those asuric natured people. And those who are these asuric people? Those who are following desire, wrath and greed. There is a long list, you can read it further. But then we have seen Sri Krishna emphasizing upon this question of greed and attachment. But my question and our question today is, we know all this is there, but is it at all feasible? Can we act without desire? Because that is the most common motivation in our life. So one thing Sri Krishna has given us a very strong dose, as we say, but we have to see the practical reality of the whole thing. Because for ordinarily the human being acts because he has a desire or feels a mental, vital or physical want or need. He is driven by the necessities of the body, by the lust of riches, honors or fame, or by a craving for the personal satisfactions of the mind or the heart, or a craving for power or pleasure. Or he is seized and pushed about by a moral need, or at least the need or the desire of making his ideas or his ideals or his will or his party or his country or his gods prevail in the world. If none of these desires or any other must be the spring of our action, it would seem as if all incentive or motive power had been removed and action itself must necessarily cease. This is our basic question. All these things, either moral ideals or our own religious ideals or our needs or desires or our craving or our ambitions, there are 100 different things. In every action that we make, there is a basic motivation, is that there is the incentive or power of desire. This is our common human nature. We may call it asuric or daivik, it does not matter. It does matter, of course, what Sri Krishna is telling us is an extreme case. No human being is either fully asuric or fully daivik. We are a mixture of the two. And yet, look at the great emphasis that the Lord Krishna has given on this nature of desire. So my question is, let us get to the basics. It seems once Swami Vivekananda was asked the question, how to work without desire or passion? You see, this is the main question, how to work without it. He replied, the Swamiji replied, I also thought in that way years ago. But as I am growing older, getting more experience, I find it is not true. The less passion there is, the better we work. The calmer we are, the better for us, and the more amount of work we can do. When we let loose our feelings, we waste so much energy, shelter our nerves, disturb our minds, and accomplish very little work. It's the calm, forgiving, equable, well-balanced mind that does the greatest amount of work. So we see an experienced person like Swamiji himself telling us that this question of desire and passion is a waste of energy. It adds so much of tension that it inhibits the pace and the perfection of our own work. We think that we can do a lot more work, but on the contrary, Swamiji says no. It is in fact a quieter, a calm, forgiving, equable, well-balanced mind that it can give the greater output of work. Well, now the basic question that I would like to address is go a little deeper and to see what exactly is this desire? Is it the question of wanting? Is it the question of, a motive power to have success and fame and money, whatever? Is it only a motivation in life? Where did it all begin? You see, this is the question that we need to understand. And here comes Sri Aurobindo with a beautiful explanation. Obviously, is there in the Alive Divine. You see, in the Life Divine, there's a beautiful chapter called Death, Desire and Incapacity. Read that if you can. And there it tells us that in fact incapacity is the beginning of desire. You see, the word is incapacity of the human being. That's the beginning of desire. What does it mean? To want to possess that which you do not have is another name for desire. So what exactly is desire? It is wanting to possess that which you do not have. This wanting to expand, possess means to grab, to take things, to expand, to increase in one's capacities, to expand one's ability is what is desire. That means today if I am able to earn, say, 20,000 rupees, I want to earn more, 30, 40, 50,000 a month. That is called expanding my capacities, expanding my skills, expanding my income. So that is a desire, that is a want, that's my success. So this expansiveness is obtained by gathering more, putting in more. So this is the question of the desire that comes in. That means that you want to have something more. And again Sri Aurobindo takes us further down. He says this question of wanting more, of expanding, is there, it begins not with the human beings. It begins at the atomic level itself. That is, the whole process, if you want to say, of desire began on the atomic level. How do we say that? You see, on the atomic level, atoms are the greatest individual. If say science has more things, I'm not going to into that. But atom is the greatest material individual. What we have seen in the becoming of the Brahman, when that supreme oneness became many, and the many percolated down to the atomic level, the smallest matter is that atom. You have further science has told us there are many other things. But for our example, let us take up only atom. Now that is the greatest individual in creation. But then atom doesn't remain atom. It starts moving around and gathering. And it starts uniting itself with other atoms. And therefore we see a kind of there's a formation. From this atomic thing they become a molecule. And the molecules they turn into a cell, the unicellular thing. And the unicellular life, it starts expanding itself, it becomes multicellular organism. And that multicellular becomes a body. What's the whole process that we see? It's the process of taking more and more, uniting with others, expanding itself. It's exactly the same process that happens with us human beings also. That we are also desirous, we want to take things, because we see the incapacity, that I am incapable of expanding, that I have a lot of limitations. I am individual, I am incapacitated individual, and I want to expand. So this is where the desire begins. That the individual atom has become multiple, multi-organ, multicellular organism, and it becomes, and it's the same urge. You see, the word is, it's the same force that is acting in man and all of us. What is that force? Sri Aurobindo tells us that in this creation there are two main forces. One is the force of individualization, and the other is the force of unification. So this entire creation is made up of only two forces. You can apply this as a paradigm to study anything in the world. Either you are trying to be individualistic, or you are trying to be having a unification. So all our efforts fall into these forces. In fact, to go further, individualization is nothing but the process of involution as described by Sri Aurobindo. And then unification is nothing but the process of evolution. So there we see again the great philosophy of involution and evolution coming into our day-to-day life. So let us not blame ourselves thinking, oh, we human beings are full of desires and all that. Obviously we are full of it, because it's not we, it's right from the atomic level it has come to us. So it is nature's own urge. So Sri Aurobindo does not dismiss this desire from the point of view of religion or ethics or morality. From the point of view of philosophy, it's a given thing. We cannot deny it. We cannot escape it. So this is the fundamental nature of desire that we want to expand. And therefore it is said that this question of desire in the beginning is an obscure need for growth. As in the lowest forms of life, love is changed into the need to swallow, absorb, become joined with another thing. This is what the mother is giving her in addition, that it is essentially what is really the basis of this creation, basis of this evolution is the divine love, or what the Upanishads told us, the Ananda. So it is the Ananda aspect which right from the atomic level is evolving, is growing, is going up. And the first terms of this growing up is by absorption, becoming joined with another thing, what I explained in the case of the atom. So this taking things, this is the most primitive form of love in the lowest forms of life. It is to take and absorb. Well, the need to take is desire. Well, in the Upanishadic language, they say the first form of love on the physical life and physical plane is called hunger. So on the matter to matter, on the level of matter, it is hunger, that means matter absorbing matter. That is the first level of hunger, which is not wrong, which is nothing bad, which is nothing unethical. That is how love expresses itself, by taking in matter versus matter. That is hunger. Then comes, perhaps the mother adds a word beautiful here. So perhaps if we went far back enough into the last depths of the inconscience, we could say that the origin of desire is love. It is love in its obscurest and most unconscious form. It is need to become joined with something, an attraction, a need to take. This is what we should remember. So see, from, as I told you already, from the philosophic point of view, desire is not something wrong. It is there, a part of our evolution itself. The whole of evolution began with desire. In fact, it is said in our scriptures that the Brahman was alone and he desired to be many. So the word is there, he desired to be many. What's the meaning of desire? There also is there. So the question of desire is there in the process of involution as well as in the process of evolution. And the first form of that process of evolution, the process of love growing up, is called hunger, or it is hunger basically. Then when the same love evolves to a next level, the level of the vital, as we say, the same thing happens. Now on the level of the vital, it's called desire. On the level of the physical, it is called hunger. It means what? It is love. It is supreme divine love which is itself evolving, and this evolution goes from hunger to desire. And there, what is the nature of desire? You see, hunger was taking up and absorbing the matter. When we say, I'm hungry for food, we are taking that food into our mouth, into our stomach. So the eater eating is eaten up. We are really getting eaten up by what we are eating. That's what the Upanishads tell us. But the nature of possession, but the nature of desire is not physically eating. It's the question of possessing. So when you begin to possess an object, saying it's my thing, it's my family, my children, my spouse, my house, my car, the sense of possession is called the sense of desire. So this is on the level of vital. But then this desire is there in the animals too. But we are, of course, the ones who express it most. The sense of possessiveness is to an extreme. And then next step comes in when humanity or those human beings who grow into the level of the mind, there comes in the question of the rudimentary love. And what's the meaning of this rudimentary love? It's a double character there. It wants to possess and it wants to be possessed. Unlike on the vital level which wanted to possess alone. But here, the first signs of love, which is there in the rudimentary level, the first signs of sharing comes in. Up until now, on the level of hunger and desire, there's no question of sharing, it's only all the time taking. But love comes in as a process where we begin to share. And when the human being, when love evolves and further the human being becomes a higher evolved person, there the question of a divine love comes in, there the question of aspiration comes in, there the question, that is the spiritual level, or we can say the psychic level. So from the physical to the vital to the mental to the spiritual. So when we say a person is spiritual, these are the things that we should see in him. Does he possess anything? Is he hungry for things? Of course, just because of hungry to have to eat something, fine. But is that hunger is also possessiveness? No. It's a need. Hunger is a need, is fine. Now, is that spiritual person sharing anything in this and also asking to be possessed? No. A spiritual person only gives without any expectation of any returns. He alone is a spiritual person who can go onto these levels. So this is the metaphysical level, and this is the philosophical understanding of what we think is this question of desire. So that gives us a wonderful understanding of the root of desire. Now the next question is, we have to understand, Because I know you'll all ask me the question, what about our day-to-day needs? Let us apply this question of desire on a psychological level. On the philosophic level, it is okay, but we need to apply it on the psychological level too. On the psychological level, what is the source? What is the origin of desire? Well, the mother explains that from the point of view of the Buddha, he says desire comes from ignorance. It is more or less that. It is something in the being which fancies that it needs something else in order to be satisfied. This is very true. Why do I desire a thing? Because I think, oh, I'm not happy without it. Oh, I'm not comfortable without it. Oh, I'm not happy with this kind of a house. So what does it mean? That because you see, the human being, the eternal quest is for happiness, that's for sure. In whatever manner, vital, physical, spiritual, anywhere. But we seek happiness, we seek delight. Because that seeking delight is again part of the evolution itself. So we have the right to seek delight. But what happens? We have a misunderstanding. It's an ignorant thing. Because I think that I can get delight and happiness by getting something outside of me. That's where the whole problem lies. To think that we fancy that it needs something else in order to be happy. Here lies the catch. This is the difference between a common man and a spiritual man. The spiritual man, he says, I do not need anything from outside of me to make me happy, to give me the delight. I do not depend on anything outer to bring me happiness. So the Buddha tells us, and the proof that it is ignorance is that when one has satisfied it, one no longer cares for it. There's another beautiful feature about desire. I think I'll be happy getting that object, a TV or something, a motorcycle, dresses. But the moment you get that, you will see there's a complete change of attitude. That excitement, that tension, that joy, it's there very temporary. So the Buddha tells us the very fact that the moment it is satisfied, one no longer cares for it. At least 99.5 times out of 100, people forget. That's the nature of desire. Well, from the sriaurobindonian point of view, there's another truth that comes in. When one lives in the true consciousness, one feels the desires outside oneself entering from outside, from the universal lower prakriti into the mind and vital parts. That's the truth. What is it? The desire, like any other thing, like anger, emotion, we discussed yesterday, your prejudices, your jealousies, all the lower emotions, nothing is within you and within us. That's the first fundamental mistake that we make. I think it's my desire, my anger, my jealousies. There's nothing my there. It's all coming from outside. There is a universal lower prakriti, that means universal nature is there from where these emotions come to us. Be it desire or jealousy or anger or wrath or anything. But then the common man, the human being, the people like us, we, in the ordinary human condition, this is not felt. Men become aware of the desire only when it is there. When it has come inside and found a lodging or habitual harborage, and so they think it is their own and a part of themselves. You see, why do we say it's my anger, my jealousy is my desire? Because the desire has already come in. It has settled within us. It has become a part of my thinking, part of my belonging. And then so I think, oh, it's my desire, my wish, my way, my anger, my prejudice, my views. Because we are never aware when did it enter me. But that is what is called a life of ignorance. We are not aware at all. And this is what is sadhana. This is what is doing yoga. Yesterday, somebody asked me about being aware and all that. This is that wakeful awareness. This is wakeful consciousness. That means if we are aware, what is it that we find out? That these are actually desires are waves of the vast sea of obscure lower nature, and they pass from one to another. Men do not generate a desire in themselves, but are invaded by their waves. Whoever is open and without defense is caught in them and tossed about. I mean, it's very difficult to understand, maybe difficult to accept. But then if you give a simple thought to it, that how is it that this entire humanity has the same desire? Every one of us, when we come of an age, we have the same desire of our own, showing off my bodies, getting into sex emotion, getting into food, getting into this. And it's there universal. It's not just here or east or west, north or south. Every human being born upon earth passes through the stages. Same desires. Food and sex and enjoyment and this and that, and there's no difference. The modus operandi may be different, the outer instrument may be different, but desire per se is the same. How do we explain that? Has anybody taught the young man or the young woman how to go about desire, how to fulfill their desires on the physical and the vital and the mental level? Nobody has taught anybody. It's there in the universal nature. And the universal nature, these waves of the vast sea obscure from the lower nature, they pass from one person to another. One person, say he leaves it, he becomes incapable, he says, I will announce it or denounce it, or he becomes so old that he cannot fulfill it. Nature says, fine, I have other people to go on. So this is the perennial, constant, universal, eternal wave. And now we understand why we are all the same victims. I mean, you have problems of, so when we say Ghar Ghar Ki Ramayan, same thing, all the same problems in every house with a little bit of shadows of changes. That's because we are all victims of the same nature forces. We are all invaded by these forces, and whoever is open and without defense is caught in them. Is open and caught in them. That means this is where a life of an inner living we call. What is that inner living? Is to be self-aware, what the mother has told us. To be aware of your entire full day. This awareness makes you kind of, aware that things are coming from outside. We'll come to that, how to get beyond desire. But this is the basic nature. So we let the things come in. When they have come in, we don't know. They have settled down for 3 days, 3 months, 3 years, and suddenly they burst out saying, no, I want to do this. That's there because it has come sometime without our being aware. So that is why I think it's my desire. But friends, it's not at all ours. It doesn't belong to us. It's a wave that comes and goes. And so mother would say, it's the same with all the lower impulses of jealousy or envy or hatred or violence, etc. These two are movements that seize you, waves that overwhelm and invade. They deform, they do not belong to the true character or the true nature. They are no intrinsic or inseparable part of yourself. Remember this sentence, most important. They are no intrinsic or inseparable part of yourself. That's the most important thing that we should remember. It's the first mistake we make. We think all these desires are within myself, and then we suffer for that. We go to the psychologist and we say, look, I'm suffering from this is within me. But no psychologist ever tells you this truth, sorry, it's not within you. You have to be now aware, be aware of yourself and let them not come in. But they come out of the sea of surrounding obscurity in which move the forces of the lower nature. Yes, that's very important. Sometimes they are there attracted by the environment, by the surrounding obscurity. That means if you are living in a particular environment, these forces, they come to a particular environment and you are absorbed, you absorb those emotions, those thoughts, those passions, those things. Say if somebody is into a kind of a particular business, then those things, the ideas that come into the business environment are quite different from an environment where there is only ashram environment, or there is only artist environment, or where there are only dancers environment. The basic things may be there, but some of the things get characteristic of that particular environment. That's why people choose to go to a particular ashram or to a mountainside or to be somewhere else. That's because the moment you change the environment, these things also change a little bit. Well, the most important is they manifest in the same way in everyone. So this is the first most important lesson we have to learn from Mother Aurobindo, that none of these, the desire itself on the psychological level, is a wave, it's a universal wave, and it goes like this antenna waves, they come into every house. But if I have my BBC channel, if I have my India channel or Republic channel, I attract that wave into my channel. So if you are open to that particular thinking, particular desire, then you attract that and keep it within you. You harbor it, as we said. Well, that is the psychological nature. Now the question is, can we get rid of this desire? Well, we have seen its philosophic nature, its psychological nature, and still Sri Krishna is very strong to say in saying that it is greed, kama, krodha and lobha which are destructive of the soul, so get rid of it. But the real question is, we have to ask ourselves very seriously and sincerely, can we ever get rid of desire? It's not possible. Why? Because as we said, the Buddha himself said, once you satisfy a desire, another desire comes in. Why does it come from? Where does it come in? Because it's there in the universal level. So there's no end to desires. You cannot get rid of desires, you cannot get rid of attachments, you cannot get rid of krodha, So what are we all talking about? Why are we saying Sri Krishna has said that we should do that? Is this something impossible that Sri Krishna is asking us to do? Or is it something impractical that we should do and just say, sorry, it's a universal wave, I cannot help it, leave it at that? Well, that's the question. Can we really do away with it? Well, again, if you go to the main point, the rejection of desire is essentially the rejection of the element of craving. You see, now there's a little distinction that's coming in. In a desire, you may want it, you may need it. But when this element of craving comes in, that's what is bad. Element of possession comes in, that's what is really, going against it. That's what bothers you, that's what brings the tension. So the thing is, if we can take away this element of craving, already we have made some progress. And then it would be, the next step would be, refusal to indulge the suggestions of desire is also a part of the rejection. To abstain from the action suggested must be included in the yogic discipline. So that is to say, if you get an urge to do an action out of desire, if you can abstain from doing the action, even once or twice or 3 times, you may have failed 10 times, 11th time you may succeed. But then, that 11th time when you succeed, it brings you a new experience. And what is that experience? You know, it's a very beautiful thing that the mother gave us a hint at. When you give up a desire, there occurs at the moment an inner communion with your psychic being. And that is why one gets a greater joy in rejecting a desire than in fulfilling it. This is a marvelous hint. This can be done. So if you want to really experience the psychic being within you, we have been told you have to do this sadhana, this meditation, this bhakti, all that can be done, no issues. But I think the shortest cut to experience, not to reach, I would say to experience the touch of the psychic being, is to reject one desire that in a day. Say, this is a desire, I will reject it. And this is what the Buddha also told, it seems. That in rejecting you connect, Buddha wouldn't have said because he doesn't have the psychic being in his philosophy. It's a mother who says that you get the touch of the psychic being. So what does it mean? That you cannot reject the desire fully, and yet you can see that it is only the psychic being. It is only the touch of the psychic being that can get rid of the desire to some extent. We must be careful to say we cannot completely abolish desire because it's coming from outside, remember, it's not within you. So how do you do it? There's a constantly, if you live in the consciousness of the psychic being, a constant relation with the inner divine presence is enveloped in an atmosphere of knowledge, light, beauty, purity. So, what is it that we have to do? Envelop ourselves with a psychic contact. The word is envelope. Envelope means having an umbrella, having a wrap around you, because that will protect the things that are coming out from the outer space. Not the outer space literally, but the outer atmosphere. So this protection, stops these desires, this jealousy, these impulses, all the things, self-pity, anger, that's the thing we saw in Arjuna. So these get stopped. If not stopped, filtered, I would say. So now we see the necessity of yoga. It's not the question of having taken a decision, I will do that, I will do this exercise, I will do that pranayama, I will do this meditation, contemplation. You do what you want to. All are good, all have their necessity, all have their place. I have no issues with that. But why is it that we want only the divine force? Because it's only the divine force of the psychic being that can filter, stop this force is coming from outside. Nothing else can help us. So that's why when Sri Krishna told us that you stop all this greed, etc., later on or before he tells us, how do we stop that? He says, by living within, by connecting me within. So he gives the same answer. That it's only by living within, in the inner being, in the immanent being, in the psychic being, in the Atman being, that you can protect yourself, you can be away from these desires. Otherwise there is no chance. So he would say, Sri Aurobindo puts it beautifully, that desire too can only cease rightly by becoming the desire of the infinite. That's the mantra. You do not leave desire, but you leave desire for the temporary things. You reject the desire for these ephemeral things. Because you see, it's the desire of the infinite. Rightly becoming the desire of the infinite. That means if you desire the divinity, if you desire a God consciousness, then that will remain as a protection, and slowly that will be, taking you away from this all problems of desire and jealousies and all this lower feeling that we have. So ultimately, what is it? We have to turn to the divine within. All these questions of wakefulness, meditation, etc., they must lead us to that positive inner presence. Unless and until we get to that inner presence, it is no use. But you may say that that you have desire for the divine Shakti or Bhakti for the divine. So can I have a desire for the divine or Bhakti? Yes, it is also a problem. It is also a solution. That you desire the divine, the higher consciousness. But Bhakti itself should not be the end, because Bhakti should lead to adoration. Adoration of the divine. So that becomes more and more intense. It's not just doing an external puja, external practices of doing puja in a temple, in a church, in this thing, everything. That's only a bhakti aspect. You're showing your divinity, your respect for the divine. But it must become an adoration. Adoration again has nothing to do with external. It is this inner full being adoration. But adoration also is part, it's the second step. The third step is consecration. That now you begin to consecrate all your thoughts and works and feelings to the divine. So that is why all that you do must be for the divine, as an offering to the divine. Only then bhakti has meaning. Otherwise, lot of us are doing this puja, this Navaratri, that. Fine. But these pujas must sink into my life, my day-to-day life. Why should there be Navaratri only this 1 week? Or only adoration of the Divine Mother only for the 7 days? In our sadhana, no, there should be an adoration every day. Adoration of the Divine is there every hour. And that can be there every hour, because if you consecrate every hour, then only it becomes something useful. Otherwise, bhakti remains just as meditation or as work, a part of your life, a rhythm of your life, a function of your life, and there it ends. Just like a carpenter would say, I'm going to my workshop, doing my table every day, I finish one table in 7 days, fine. Just as he is doing a carpentry, you are going to the puja, you are doing the Navaratri, fine, so what? What's big about it? But one who is doing sadhana, for him, every day, as Sri Aurobindo writes, is a pilgrimage. Can you make your life a pilgrimage? That is the real meaning of life. So all these things point to one thing only, that you have to have a God orientation. And then it is only by this we can move towards what the Gita has given as the ultimate solution. How do we go about this desire? I mean, action without desire. It has combined a simple answer the very first question that we ask ourselves, what is the real motivation of our life? Can there be at all any motivation without desire? Well, we remember the last verses in chapter 18. They're so marvelous about Sri Krishna that he has given us so many things, such great clarification. As we said, logical, rational, psychological answers. He has given us deeper depths, at lower depths, inner secrets of the human being, the soul, etc., which we'll discuss tomorrow and day after. But the last verse it says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam raja. This is the ultimate secret. And in the same way, he answers this question of the desire. Desireless action. He says all action must be done in a more and more Godward and finally God-possessed consciousness. This is explained by Aurobindo. So it's a simple mantra that all action must be done in a more and more Godward and finally a God-possessed consciousness. You want to do yoga? You can always do that. But by not doing this and that, that's a wrong misunderstanding we are having. Let's not think that we can do yoga by doing this or by doing this or by this practice, nothing. And yes, we have all the desires. I am not yet into my psychic being. We say the psychic being alone can really be the God for the desire, etc. But I am not into a psychic being. I am too far from a psychic contact. So what do I do on my day-to-day life? It's as simple. Let my actions be Godward and God-possessed consciousness. Our works must be a sacrifice to the divine, and in the end a surrender of all our being, mind, will, heart, sense, life and body to the One, must make God love and God service our only motive. Here are the mantric words: Godward, God possessed, God love, God service. If we all of us remember these 4 words, we can do anything. We have all the problems of attachment, we have all the problems of desire, we do not go to the psychic being, and yet I want to live a meaningful life. I don't call this spirituality, I don't give it big names, nothing. I want to be a common man, a simple man, and yet I want to be living the life of the Gita. And so it is a sacrifice we must make to the divine and a surrender of all our being, mind, will, heart, sense, life and body to the One. This transformation of the motive force and very character of works is indeed its master idea. It is the foundation of its unique synthesis of works, love and knowledge. In the end, not desire, but the consciously felt will of the eternal remains as the sole driver of our action and the sole originator of its initiative. So once you practice this on a day-to-day level, very consciously, very vigorously, very actively, then all these things, sarva dharma, and all the rules of desire, of attachment, of this thing, that thing, everything vanishes. Why? Because you are taking to the royal road. On this royal path, nothing of these human things can affect you. Well, there could be there, we are not transformed in a day. But in the end, not desire, but the consciously felt will of the eternal remains. Once we really live, this is the meaningful life. A Godward, a God-possessed, a God-love and a God-service. Into this meaningful life, we will begin to feel, we will begin to hear, we will begin to think about what? The will of the eternal. We become then the instruments of this eternal divinity, and then you are an instrument of God. You are no more living for yourself, your ego, your thing, your desire, nothing. All these things will drop off. I mean, not that you're aspiring for it, not that you're doing a conscious sadhana for it, nothing. The only orientation is Godward action, God possessed consciousness, God love and God service. Be it your thoughts, your emotions, your life, your relations, your job, anything. So nothing in life can be eliminated. Because all of this, all life is yoga, says the Master. So into this all life, you penetrate with this question of God consciousness. And therefore you become an Arjuna, a person who is really now has been transformed, as we said, after all these questions and answers and the Vishwarup Darshan, he has been transformed, and we'll see in our last talk how he has been transformed. And this is where we see the question of Aurobindo tells us that I want to really be in this consciousness. Again, don't think of God lover and God, this thing is again being a pujari, no. In all actions, in all feelings, you become a pujari. Isn't that a wonderful thing? An adoration of the divine in every act, in every thought, in every feeling. That's you become a pujari. And there are beautiful lines that are brought from Savitri. O mortal, bear this great world's law of pain. In thy hard passage through a suffering world, lean for the soul's support on heaven's strength. Heaven is the Godward action. Turn towards high truth. Aspire to love and peace. A little bliss is lent thee from above. A touch divine upon thy human days. Make of thy daily way a pilgrimage. For through small joys and griefs thou movest towards God. That's a beautiful message. It really combines everything. But this entire yoga is in single sentence, be it of yoga of the Gita or yoga of Integralyoga. Make of thy daily way a pilgrimage. And all of you know the meaning of pilgrimage. It's a movement, going, marching, journeying towards the divine. So can your everyday be a journey to the divine? In acts small and big, if we can do this pilgrimage, we will be moving towards God. This is the beautiful message. So I think I don't have to wrap up. I've explained in detail, but this is the crux of this question of desire. Can we really act without desire? Well, we have done it philosophically, psychologically and all that, but ultimately Sri Krishna is great in giving us one single sentence, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. And Sri Aurobindo also is brilliant in his poetic line that make of thy daily life, daily way, a pilgrimage. That is the message from both Sri Krishna and Sri Aurobindo. Thank you so much for listening to me patiently. Thanks a lot.